It started with a simple question, one I thought was harmless. We were sitting in the living room, the soft hum of the air conditioner filling the silence that had become all too familiar between us. My wife, Laura, was scrolling on her phone, and I noticed a notification pop up from a man's name I didn't recognize. Just 3 letters, almost cryptic. "Who's this?" I asked casually, trying to keep my tone neutral. Laura barely looked up. "Oh, just someone from work." "Why?" "Just curious," I said, watching her fingers dance over the screen. There was a hesitation, a fraction of a second that I almost missed. Something about her demeanor made my chest tighten, the familiar anxiety creeping in. "You're too insecure," she said suddenly, without even lifting her eyes. Her words hit harder than I expected. Too insecure. That phrase had become her defense whenever I questioned something she did, whenever I tried to understand the boundaries she was crossing. "Seriously, can you let it go? You're making a big deal out of nothing." I swallowed my frustration. I didn't want to fight, at least not yet, but the unease in my gut demanded attention. "It's not nothing," I said carefully. "It's just that this feels off." Laura waved me off. "You're imagining things. Stop overthinking everything. You don't need to worry about me." Her words should have been enough to shut me up, and for a moment, I almost let them be. But something in the way she said it, in the quick flash of annoyance in her eyes, told me there was more than I could see. I knew the feeling of being lied to, intuitively, deeply, and I had a nagging suspicion that her reassurance was a fragile mask over something far more dangerous. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept turning over the notification, replaying her reaction, the almost imperceptible shift in tone. Finally, I got up and opened her laptop, the rational part of me screaming at the intrusion but the other, more desperate part demanding answers. The files, the messages, the emails, it all unfolded like a slow-motion disaster. Her ex's name wasn't just in a notification. It was in dozens of hidden chats, private emails, and deleted text threads. Each message painted a picture of betrayal I had never imagined. Plans, apologies, confessions, all things she had denied, all things she had called my insecurity for noticing. The calm, collected woman I had married was unraveling before me in digital ink. I sat there, frozen, my mind struggling to reconcile the Laura I knew with the woman in the messages. It wasn't just a fleeting infatuation or a harmless fling. This was a sustained connection, a shadow life she had carefully hidden from me. My heart raced, my chest felt tight, but strangely, so did a sense of vindication. I hadn't been overreacting. I hadn't been insecure. I had been seeing what was always there, lurking just beneath the surface. The next morning, I confronted her. I laid out the laptop, the messages, the evidence. Her initial reaction was disbelief, then anger, then panic. How could you go through my things?" she stammered. This is insane." I didn't respond immediately. I let her words hang in the air, let the reality of her own secrets suffocate her for a moment. "You called me insecure," I said finally, my voice calm but firm. "You told me I was imagining things. You said I was overreacting. But the truth..." I paused, letting the weight of the pause sink in. "The truth doesn't care about my feelings. The truth just is." She looked at me then, really looked, and I saw the first crack in her armor. Fear. Regret. The knowledge that the lies she had spun so carefully were now unraveling before her own eyes. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again, words failing her. You have to understand," she finally said, voice trembling. "I didn't mean. It's not what it looks like." But it was exactly what it looked like. The secrets she had buried, the denials, the accusations that I was too insecure, all exploded in the room like shrapnel. I realized in that instant that the battle wasn't about trust, it was about control. She had maintained control over the narrative for months, maybe years, framing my intuition and questions as flaws, painting herself as the victim of my paranoia. And now, with the truth out, that control was gone. For hours, we sat in silence. The weight of her betrayal pressed down on both of us, though in very different ways. I was stunned, angry, and yet strangely calm. This was clarity. She was panicked, defensive, and trapped by the very web she had woven. And in that clarity, I realized that my next step wasn't about confrontation or revenge. It was about choice. I didn't shout. I didn't beg. I didn't storm out. I simply said, we need to decide what happens next. And this time, it has to be based on truth, not lies. She nodded, tears in her eyes, the first real admission of guilt I had ever seen. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt a sense of power. Not over her, not in a petty sense, but over myself. I could see with unflinching clarity who I was married to and who I was not. That night, as she cried softly on the couch, I packed a bag. Not in anger, not in haste, but with purpose. My decision wasn't about punishment, it was about preservation. I had ignored the whispers of doubt for too long, called paranoid, labeled insecure, but now I saw the truth. And seeing it meant acting on it. I left the apartment quietly, my footsteps deliberate, my mind focused. I didn't need a dramatic scene, a shouting match, or a final argument. Her secrets had spoken louder than any words could. They had shattered the illusion of security I had tried to maintain. And in their explosion, they had given me freedom. As I drove away into the night, the city lights blurred past, I realized something profound. Betrayal isn't always about the act itself. It's about the lies, the manipulations, and the constant questioning of reality. And surviving it isn't about forgiveness. It's about seeing clearly, choosing wisely, and never allowing someone else's deceit to define your own truth. Laura's voice, calling after me, faded into the distance. Her words, once sharp, accusatory, and designed to undermine me, were now meaningless. The secrets that had exploded in our home were mine to witness, mine to understand, and ultimately, mine to leave behind. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt whole again.